Souls Unitarian Universalist Church, building community, inspiring growth, creating change. Here in the heart of Kansas City, we come together to create this hour of shared reflection so that we might be renewed in courage for these times and inspired to lives of greater dignity, higher purpose, deeper generosity, and more effective action. May the words and music and images that we offer today nourish our best selves, calling forth abundant wisdom and love, a love that has the power to overcome both loneliness in the heart and oppression in the world. Welcome to our service.
Arise, O souls, all arise.
Good morning. I'm Jean Patterson, a member of the congregation, and I'm so happy to welcome you today on this sultry summer Sunday. Now that I've practiced my sibilance, I will continue. Whether you're here in the room with us or whether you're online, we're so glad you're with us today. Your presence fills us with joy and makes us all better. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Our tradition is a large tent with room for many beliefs and approaches to the questions that matter. That said, our values of inclusion, compassion, and justice are strong and hold us together. We seek to build the beloved community, making room for everyone and creating a world where everyone's needs are met. You may be new here this morning. Welcome. I hope you visited the visitors table, the welcome table, when you came in. If you didn't, please stop by at the end. Also, members who would like to chat with visitors, please raise your hands. Now, see all these good people. After the service, if you'd like to talk to any of them, please do. We would welcome it. And Anthony, would you introduce our guest this morning?
Our guest flautist this morning is my good friend Mark Kohick, and we played together at the Kansas City Rep and at Starlight and all over the place. So I'm happy to have him here to help along with the musicality of our poetry service this morning. So welcome.
Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears, you're welcome here. You are invited to join us with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands. We welcome you today.
I am the Reverend Erin Dajka Holley, the lead minister here at All Souls. This morning, our service is a collaboration between members who read the readings on Sunday mornings and me. We have collectively selected 12 poems and short readings, each somehow connected to the idea of hope, and we are sharing those with you this morning. We will offer no interpretation. That is up to you and your heart in this moment. The Reverend Gretchen Haley wrote these opening words. There is too much beauty in this world to give up on it yet, and it is always too soon to surrender to cynicism. Bring your doubt, your skepticism, your downright confusion, even your bitterness. But in the midst of all these, in the center, wrap your tender fingers around that still bright thread of hope. Feel in your heart that still steady hunger for something more, the vision, the glimpse every day in the rising sun across the foothills, the light that spreads across the face of the one we love, the look of knowing all there is to know is still and loving life, loving us just as it is, just as we are. For this hour we come to celebrate, to praise, to give thanks, to refuse to give up, to steady ourselves, keepers of hope, brave builders of the still possible world. Come, let us worship together.
Here today, in this place and with these people, may we listen so that we can hear. May we hear so that we can feel. May we feel so that we can know. And may we know so that we can change ourselves and this world. May this chalice we light our way. Now, please stand as you're able and join in the affirmation of our covenant, and then remain standing as we join together in song. Goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Separate fires will kindle one So I have a story. And I'd like to invite anyone who would like to listen to the story closer to me to come up and sit on the carpet or in the chairs in front. No pressure. We're all friendly here. Good morning and welcome. Have a seat.
Right here?
On the carpet. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to sit down with you. I'm going to tell you all a story. And this story is called Two Frogs. And my colleague Christopher Buse wrote this for us. He wrote, once two frogs, you know frogs, the hoppy things, right? They were hopping through the forest when they accidentally hopped into a big churn of cream. The sides of the churn were so slick and slippery that there was no place for them to hold on to. So the frogs had to swim in circles to stay afloat. And after a long time, one frog said, "There is no hope. We're doomed to drown in this churn." And the older frog said, "Don't lose hope. Life is a circle. There are bad times and there are good times. One must endure the winter to see the spring." The young frog was not so sure, and he said, "You're wrong. We're going to die, I tell you. We're going to die." And the older frog said, "We must keep hope alive, for if hope dies, we too will die. But if we keep hope alive, we will live to see another sunrise." But the younger frog was already starting to lose hope, and he began to sink down into the creamy liquid. "Keep hope alive! Keep hope alive!" cried the older one. And then the younger one started repeating, slowly at first, "Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive." And the more that they repeated the words, the stronger they felt. And the more strength they had, the better they could swim in circles in that cream. And as they swam and swam around and around in circles, an amazing thing happened. They realized they weren't sinking anymore because the cream had turned into butter. The two frogs were able to hop off the butter and go out of the churn. And they landed on the ground just in time to see a beautiful sunrise. And the older frog said to the younger one, "Remember, my son, life is a circle. Despair may last for a night, but joy comes in the morning." And the two frogs hopped away into the woods. So that is our story of hope, that keeping hope alive in our hearts will help us to see joy the next morning. We will now sing our young people to their classes. Thank you for joining me.
All right, good morning. So our first reading today is Hope by Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes, a black man, wrote in the 1920s and was an essential voice of the Harlem Renaissance. Sometimes when I'm lonely, don't know why, keep thinking I won't be lonely by and by.
Invictus by William Ernst Henley. William Ernst Henley was a British poet. He wrote Invictus in 1875. Out of the night that covers me, Black is the pit from pole to pole. I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Good morning. My name is Amy Robertson, and my husband Joe and I just visited the Redwoods for the first time. We were stunned by these ancient giants in their very quiet forests. We found that people worked in diligent and ingenious ways to save this ecosystem from logging destruction, and that gives me hope for our Earth. This is from an essay about the Save the Redwoods League, written for their 100th anniversary in 2018. These days, it can be hard to imagine that the coast redwoods of California would have ever needed such a dogged, politically and socially brilliant effort to save them in the first place. At a time when our pleasures are increasingly engineered through a circus of virtual technology, to come to the feet of the redwoods, each big tree 1,000,000 tons of grace and nobility, whose reign on this earth of some 144 million years seems to shatter time itself. We might imagine that the inherent worth of such life would have naturally been given the reverence and respect it deserves. But the coast redwoods that in 1840 sprawled like a coven of giants from south of Big Sur all the way to the hushed hills of southern Oregon fell in remarkably short order. Even with the fierce dedication of groups like Save the Redwoods League, today barely 5% of those 2 million acres of redwood stands remain. But much as the wildfire tends to burn in patterns that leave small islands of seed trees, these remaining redwoods are not just seeding the future redwood forests, but, just as important, seeding in the human heart the wonder and awe and humility that keep us searching for how to live more sustainably on this precious planet. Of all Earth's wonders, the redwoods have proven to be especially potent wellsprings of such inspiration, able even now to wipe clean the detritus of media and politics and traffic and the little screens of our smartphones, giving us the eyes and heart with which to perceive the miraculous. For all the strong, steadfast roles nature has played in defining American character, too often we've carried no mutually agreed on tenet to leave as sanctuary that which is truly extraordinary. We have depended on and greatly benefited from the enormous inspiration and commitment of men and women like those of Save the Redwoods League. These are the people who react to the astonishing in nature, not just by celebrating it, but by devoting their lives to making sure it will persist for generations to come. For the sake of humans, to be sure, but also in service of the idea that a life form so astonishingly singular should be given the very best chance of survival. Because of their efforts, we can push forward into this new century, able still to walk and wonder among these, the greatest trees on earth.
A Center by Ha Jin. Ha Jin is a Chinese poet who has spent most of his adulthood in the United States. A Center was published in 2018. You must hold your quiet center, where you do what only you can do. If others call you a maniac or a fool, just let them wag their tongues. If some praise your perseverance, don't feel too happy about it. Only solitude is a lasting friend. You must hold your distant center. Don't move even if earth and heaven quake. If others think you are insignificant, that's because you haven't held on long enough. As you stay put year after year, eventually you will find a world beginning to revolve around you.
It looks like Terry may have not made it this morning. So I want to mention in this moment, as we prepare to receive the offering, just how wonderful it is to sit together in a room and online and be together. To know that in this time, none of us is alone. To know that we can do something to change this world because we are together. And so I hope that you will be generous in giving to this, our church, so that we can continue to be in this moment together, to enjoy the programming of the time that we spend together outside of this room, and to continue our work in the world. Our offering will now be gratefully given and received.
And now, will you please join as we dedicate our offering? We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society.
Yellow Glove is by Naomi Shihab Nye, an American poet of Palestinian heritage. She began writing in the late 1970s, and she continues to publish today. What can a yellow glove mean in a world of motor cars, governments? I was small, like everyone else, and life was a string of precautions. Don't kiss the squirrel before you bury him. Don't suck candy, pop balloons, drop watermelon, watch TV. So when the new gloves appeared one Christmas, tucked in beautiful, soft tissue, I heard it trailing me, "Don't lose the yellow gloves." But I was small, and there was too much to remember. One day, I was waving at the stream because the ice had cracked, the winter was chipping down, and soon we could sail our boats and we could roll in the ditches. And I let the glove go. Into the stream, it was sucked under the street. Since when did streets have mouths? I walked home on a desperate road. Gloves cost money. We didn't have much. I would tell no one. I would wear the yellow glove that was left and keep the other hand in a pocket. Because I knew my mother's eyes had tears they had not cried yet, and I didn't want to be the one to make them flow. It was a prayer I spoke secretly while folding socks, while lighting up donkeys in the windowsills, to be good. To be good. A promise I made to the roaches who scouted my closet at night. If you don't get in my bed, I will be good. And they listened. So I had a lot to fulfill. The months rolled down like towels out of a machine. I sang and drew and fattened the cat. Don't scream, don't lie, don't cheat, don't fight. You could hear it anywhere. But a pebble could show you how to be smooth, tell the truth. A field could show you how to sleep without walls. A stream could remember how to drift and change. So the next June, when I was stirring the stream like a soup and telling my brother that dinner would be ready if he would just hurry up with the bread, I saw it. A muddy survivor. That yellow glove was draped on a twig, a quiet flag. Where had it been these 3 gone months? I could wash it and fold it and put it in my winter drawer with its sister, and no one in the world would ever know. There are miracles on Harvey Street. Children walked home in yellow light. Trees reborn and gloves traveled far, but they returned. 1,000 miles later, what can a yellow glove mean in a world of bank books and stereos? Part of the difference between floating and going down.
This is from the 4 quartets by T.S. Eliot, or the 4th poem from it called Little Gidding, and part 5. T.S. Eliot was an American-British poet who published in the first half of the 20th century. What we call the beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from, and every phrase and every sentence that is right, where every word is at home, taking its place to support the others, the word neither different nor ostentatious, an easy commerce of the old and the new, the common word exact without vulgarity, the formal word precise but not pedantic, the complete consort dancing together. Every phrase and every sentence is an end and a beginning, every poem an epitaph. And any action is a step to the block, to the fire, down the sea's throat, or to an illegible stone, and that is where we start. We die with the dying. See, they depart, and we go with them. We are born with the dead. See, they return and bring us with them. The moment of the rose and the moment of the yew tree are of equal duration. A people without history is not redeemed from time, for history is a pattern of timeless moments. So, while the light fails on a winter's afternoon in a secluded chapel, history is now and England. With the drawing of this love and the voice of this calling, we shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Through the unknown, remembered gate, when the last of earth left to discover is that which was the beginning, at the source of the longest river, the voice of the hidden waterfall and the children in the apple tree, not known because not looked for, but heard, half heard, in the stillness between two waves of the sea. Quick now, here, now, always. A condition of complete simplicity, costing not less than everything. And all shall be well, and all manner of thing shall be well when the tongues of flame are infolded into the crowned knot of fire, and the fire and the rose are one.
It was The Animals by Natalie Diaz. Natalie Diaz is a member of the Gila River Indian community. Her 2 collections of poetry were published in 2012 and 2020. Today, my brother brought over a piece of the Ark wrapped in a white plastic grocery bag. He set the bag on my dining table, unknotted it, peeled it away, revealing a foot-long fracture of wood. He took a step back and gestured toward it with his arms and open palms. "It's the Ark," he said. "You mean Noah's Ark?" I asked. "What other ark is there?" he answered. "Read the inscription," he told me. "It tells what's going to happen at the end." "What end?" I wanted to know. He laughed. "What do you mean, what end?" "The end. Then he lifted it out. The plastic bag rattled. His fingers were silkened by pipe blisters. He held the jagged piece of wood so gently. I had forgotten my brother could be gentle. He set it on the table the way people on television set things when they're afraid these things might blow up or go off. He set it right next to my empty coffee cup. It was no ark. It was a broken end of a picture frame with a floral design carved into its surface. He put his head in his hands. "I shouldn't show you this. God, why did I show her this? It's ancient. Oh, God, it's so old." "Fine," I gave in. "Where did you get it?" "The girl," he said. "Oh, the girl. What girl?" I asked. You'll wish you never knew, he told me. I watched him drag his wrecked fingers over the chipped flower work of the wood. You should read it, but oh, you can't take it no matter how many books you've read. He was wrong. I could take the ark. I could even take his marvelously fucked fingers, the way they almost glittered. It was the animals. The animals I could not take. They came up the walkway into my house, cracked the doorframe with their hooves and hips, marched past me, into my kitchen, into my brother, tails snaking across my feet before disappearing like retracting vacuum cords into the hollows of my brother's clavicles, tusks scraping the walls, reaching out for him. Wildebeests, pigs, the oryxes with their black matching horns, javelinas, jaguars, pumas, raptors, the ocelots with their mathematical faces. So many kinds of goat, so many kinds of creature. I wanted to follow them, to get to the bottom of it. But my brother stopped me. This is serious, he said. You have to understand. It can save you. So I sat down with my brother wrecked open like that, and 2 by 2 the fantastical beasts parading him. I sat as the water fell against my ankles, built itself up around me, filled my coffee cup before floating it away from the table. My brother, teeming with shadows, a hull of bones, lit only by tooth and tusk, lifting his ark high up in the air.
In the spring of 2013, I had routine carotid surgery. All went well, and I was soon home. But the wound became infected, and suddenly, most unexpectedly, I was back in hospital. A most unwelcome turn of events. April 6, 4 a.m. I awake, an empty blankness before me, no seeing what lies ahead, nothing. 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 Nothing there to hold on to pull me forward. Nurses, aides, doctors come and go. Carol, a phone call from my brother John. I engage with humor and vigor. I think of Bob and Yvonne and Carol. I owe so much to so many. Obligation and possibilities. Some Ambien and a good night's sleep. I awake, I'm me again, ready to move on. But the nothing lingers and must be explored.
This poem is untitled. It's by Sheikh Abu Said Abilkir, and the rendition is by Vraj Abrimian. Abilkir was a 10th century Sufi poet, and in his poetry, beloved is Allah. To your mind, feed understanding. To your heart, tolerance and compassion. The simpler your life, the more meaningful. The less you desire of the world, the more room you will have in it to fill with the beloved.
This is a piece from Teamwork Makes the Dream Work by John C. Maxwell. Mountain climbing is not for the faint of heart, because the world's highest peaks are some of the most inhospitable places on earth. Everest is remote. At 29,035 feet, the altitude incapacitates all but the hardiest and most experienced climbers, and the weather is ruthlessly unforgiving. In 1953, Tenzing Norgay embarked on his 7th expedition to Everest with a British group led by Colonel John Hunt. Tenzing was engaged to be the British group's Sherpa leader who would hire, organize, and lead the porters to the journey. This was no small task. To get just 2 people from base camp up to the summit, the team brought in 10 high-altitude climbers, including a New Zealander named Edmund Hillary. Altogether, the men would require 2.5 tons of equipment and food. Those supplies couldn't be trucked or airlifted to the base of the mountain. They would have to be delivered to Kathmandu, then carried on the backs of 200 to 300 men and women 180 miles up and down Himalayan ridges and over rivers crossed by narrow rope and plank bridges to the base camp. Supplies that would be needed by the party above the base camp would have to be carried up the mountain by another 40 porters. The best third of that team would continue working higher up the mountain, carrying up the 750 pounds of necessary equipment in 30-pound loads. Only Tenzing and 3 other porters would have the strength and skill to go to the high camps near the summit. For each level the climbers reached, a higher degree of teamwork was required. One set of men would exhaust themselves just to get equipment up the mountain for the next group. 2-man teams would work their way up the mountain, finding a path, cutting steps, securing ropes. And then they would be done, having spent themselves to make the next leg of the climb possible for another team. Of the teamwork involved, Tenzing remarked, "You do not climb a mountain like Everest by trying to race ahead on your own or by competing with your comrades. You do it slowly and carefully by unselfish teamwork." The team of climbers ultimately made it possible for 2 pairs to make their attempts at reaching the summit. The first was Tom Burdillon and Charles Evans. When they tried and failed, it was time for the second team, Tenzing and Edmund Hillary. Tenzing wrote of the first team. They were worn out, sick with exhaustion, and of course, terribly disappointed that they had not reached the summit themselves. But still, they did everything they could to advise and help us. For where would Hillary and I have been without the others? Without the climbers who had made the route and the Sherpas who had carried the loads? It was only because of the work and sacrifice of all of them that we were now to have our chance at the top. They made the most of their chance. On May 29, 1955, Tenzing Norgay and Edmund Hillary accomplished what no other human being had ever had done. They stood at the summit of Mount Everest, the world's highest peak. Would Tenzing and Hillary have made it without a great team? The answer is no. If you want to climb a great mountain, you cannot do it alone.
Hope is the Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson. Emily Dickinson was a white American poet in the 19th century. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could have bashed the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me.
The Hill We Climb by Amanda Gorman. Amanda Gorman is a Black American poet of the 21st century. She wrote this poem for the inauguration of Joe Biden in 2021. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find the light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny Black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother, can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge a union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together victorious, not because we will never know defeat, but because we will never sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in the bridges we've made. That is the promise to glade, the hill we climb only if we dare, if we only dare. It's because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy, and this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust. For while we have our eyes on the future, history has our eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption we feared at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens, but one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might, and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left with. Every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the west. We will rise from the windswept northeast where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked south. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover. And every known nook of our nation and every corner called our country, our people diverse and beautiful will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
Your spirit, and let us sing, with joy we claim the growing light. We release this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. May we leave this place and one another inspired into another day and another week with full hearts, knowing that there is still hope in this world and that our actions matter. Go in peace.